Well, it's now time for weather with Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Eric Hunt. Eric saw some good moisture in parts of the state, and as I mentioned, though, too much rain and hail across other portions. How are things shaping up as we turn to the week ahead?
Thanks, Bryce. Unfortunately, I'm seeing a little bit of the same thing this next week coming up. Starting off on Saturday, we'll have a decent trough moving into the central U.S. That is going to bring another chance of severe weather, particularly across south central and southeastern Nebraska. Highest threats to our south. And the heavier precipitation right now is currently expected to be to our south and to our east, although parts of southeastern Nebraska and east central Nebraska will be under the gun for potential for another inch to 2 inches of rain if the system ends up being a little bit further north when it was currently projected. Again, this is Thursday. If by Saturday this ends up being a little bit further north, then we can shift all this to the north and northwest just a little bit. That would give us some places that really don't need another inch of rain, another inch of rain. We should get a little break here at midweek as we'll be under the influence of ridging. That will bring some warmer temperatures, particularly to the western portion of the state where we could actually use a little bit more heat. But as we move toward the later portion of the week, we'll be back in more zonal flow, and with some influence from the Gulf of Mexico, we are going to see chances of precipitation by Thursday and Friday and into Saturday. Kind of difficult to pinpoint now just exactly where we're going to get some of this precipitation, but we are definitely looking at some precipitation amounts, probably on the order of a half inch to another inch across a good portion of the state. So again, I don't see a 3 or 4 day stretch in a row of dry weather coming up anywhere in the state this coming week. The CPC keeps us wet into the first portion of June, first part of June for pretty much the entire state. And the European model also keeps at least the south central and southeastern portion of the state relatively wet through the first week of June. GFS keeps a little bit of that more to the south, but again, definitely not showing any real dry signal. We are looking at being a little bit above average across the western portion of Nebraska and probably right around average in the eastern portion of the state as we head into the early part of June. Precipitation this last week, so again, we saw some very needed precipitation here across portions of southwestern Nebraska and the southern panhandle where we really kind of needed it. This was not needed, and we certainly didn't need 6 to 8 inches of rain. So again, there are some places around Cedar Bluffs and Fremont that had 8 inches of rain between Monday night into Tuesday. And of course, we had situations like this around Wahoo with significant flooding. We did see some improvement on the drought monitor, no surprise, across areas where we did see tremendous precipitation. A little bit of degradation here across Lincoln and Keith counties where we just kind of keep missing out on the rain. But in general, where we did get some good rains, we did see some improvement this last week. We are now down to under 7% of the state in drought, which is probably the best we've been in almost 4 years. Soil moisture, again, we are very, very wet across a lot of the Highway 30 corridor into Iowa, Minnesota, and across north central Nebraska. Again, this time of year, we don't want to be in the red. We don't want to be in that much blue either. So that's way, way too wet. Rangeline conditions are generally speaking are pretty good across the eastern portion of Sandhills. A little bit drier here across the western portion of Sandhills. Now, again, this was before we had some of that precipitation earlier this week, so it'll be interesting to see if we do see some improvement depicted here in the western portion of the Sandhills. But again, we've kind of been going a little bit of the wrong direction here in the last month or so with regards to precipitation. Soil temperatures across the state right now are mostly in the 60s. We do have a few low 70s here across portions of southeastern Nebraska and a few mid 50s to low 60s here across portions of the Panhandle. And again, our temperature precipitation roundup, again, we had 8.65 inches of rain at one site in Bennington and only 300ths of an inch in Philly down in Gage County. So quite the range of precipitation. Again, this is actually not that far apart in terms of mileage. And again, we had a range of temperatures from 92 in Culbertson to 29 in Bushnell. Thanks, and back to you, Bryce.